Yes, and welcome to the last TNC live stream of the season. I'm delighted today to be joined by Dan O'Hagan himself, commentator, NCFC fan. Dan, how are you?
I'm pretty good, yeah. I mean, aside from the result, yeah, pretty good. But I think a 5-0 loss is about right today. I thought Norwich were awful.
Yeah, front to back. I mean, within the first, we'll break the game down, Dan. I mean, for me, straight away, first 30, I sort of thought we were fairly valiant in our approach, our physicality, the way that we tried to force ourselves under kind of Manchester City's collar, but it quickly crumbled. Now, you all might be wondering, where the hell is Jack? He's been off to toilet breaks numerous times during the season. Jack is here. He's buggered off on holiday, isn't he? So whilst we're all facing the misery of Manchester City beating us 5-0, Jack's buggered off on holiday. You could call it tactical, if you will. Dan, let's get straight into it. Where did it go wrong today for you?
I thought it was as expected. Norwich clearly are nowhere near the level Man City are, woefully short of confidence, defeat after defeat. It was always going to be a loss, and a fairly heavy one, I think, as well. I'm not surprised by 5-0 being the final score. And again, Norwich just never had the quality to really lay a glove. Aside from obviously the early goal that got ruled out for offside against Hernandez, didn't really offer much at all. And a pretty chastening way to end a very chastening season.
I thought Anel was actually fantastic today, I thought, considering circumstances. And actually, since the restart for me, has been the only player that I can pinpoint to say, actually, you know what? You've done the club proud. I genuinely think that to be, I mean, even if you look at that, there was a chance at the end as well where I'm pretty sure he took on 2 or 3 players in the Man City box and almost carved a chance for himself. Regardless of VAR, Dan, because we all know that that's an absolute nonsense. He took the strike very well, didn't he?
He did a great hit, from a guy who obviously missed a big chunk of the season injured, has a kind of point to prove. And I just hope they can keep him, because I think he could be, again, a really key figure in the Championship next season. We know when they came up, he was a wonderful player. Injured in the summer before this season, he even kicked off, so he was always playing catch-up. But yeah, took that shot really well today, and a crying shame that VAR had their protractors, their dotted lines out again to once again rule out a Norwich goal.
Dan, I absolutely loved your tweet earlier. It made me laugh so much, the old dotted lines and protractors. And as Big Bands 28 is saying below, we won't say that. We'll try and keep it clean this time. But yeah, absolutely shocking. I mean, to be fair, it was offside. There aren't really many complaints. It's just frustrating because time after time this season, we've been mugged off by VAR. Dan, a man I want to talk about, mainly for his first 30 minutes, is Marco Stieferman. I thought, in the first half, he looked fairly impressive, right? He's physical, held the ball well, tried to link that midfield and forward line. Am I a bit desperate in trying to be positive here?
No, he was tidy today. We know from last year that he's a player that when he's got his confidence, he's an excellent asset to Norwich City. But he's one who's really taken a few knocks and a real bruising in this division this season. It's been a big step for him. But there's no doubt that on his day, he's still a really talented player. And another one like Hernandez, I think, who, if they can keep him, if he wants to stay, will be a big asset next year trying to get back into the Premier League, because, he's been there and done it last season, was such an important player, goals and assists. And hopefully he can repeat that going forward into next season.
Yeah, I like that, Dan, a lot. And, I'm particularly excited to see Anel Hernandez. Let us know if you're watching on YouTube and Facebook who you're most excited about seeing next season in the Championship. God, that sounds horrible. It's the first time I've kind of tried to come to terms with it, believe it or not. But Marco Stieferman, as you say, Dan, I think he could be good for us next season. Now, this is controversial, I think, personally, in my humble opinion, from Ryan Fox on YouTube. Pookie is a different man. I don't want to see this Pookie up front for us next season. Dan, what's your take on Teemu Pukki since the restart? Because for me, we've coined it here at TNC that the triple P, the Pukki purple patch, was shortly lived, wasn't it? And it's been disappointed to see such a lack of confidence since the restart.
It is that as well. I think you saw that chance first half clean through. Pukki 2 years ago doesn't think about that. He just hits and scores. Yeah. He's thinking too much about these chances because they're coming along so infrequently, and he hasn't scored. It's 2 goals this year, 1 in open play, I think, since December or something. And you look at that, and it's not the player he was. the number of first-time finishes last season in the goals he scored, and this season he's just thinking too much when he gets in on goal. And look, if he stays, the goals will come again next season. He's a quality finisher. We saw that last year. We saw that for the first 4 months of this season as well. Strikers, we know, live and die on confidence, and right now his is rock bottom. But he will, if he stays, come good again, I'm sure, for Norwich.
Quickly on Pukki, Dan, obviously strongly linked with Besiktas this within the last week. What's your take on those rumours? Do you think that Teemu Pukki really wants to leave Norwich City Football Club, considering circumstances?
We know, obviously, last year, top scorer, wonderful, but it's been tough this season. He's a guy, around 30. He's got to think about his family and finance. Besiktas could almost certainly pay an awful lot more than a Championship Norwich could. It's maybe at that age his one last move to go to a league where he can earn good money, and the Turkish league at that level pays well. So can you blame him, having got Norwich up? If he wants to go and say, look, for 3 or 4 more years, I want to look after my family here, get us nice and financially stable and secure, and just give it a go in Turkey. If he stays, brilliant. But if he doesn't, you can't really blame him, I don't think.
Well, a man that has recently gone to Turkey, of course, is the mighty Cameron Jerome, who's probably absolutely balling. An interesting point you make there, Dan, about, because everyone normally finishes their career at Norwich because of the family effect, but actually you're saying potentially, roll it in away in Turkey and try and do that. Dan, something that you've touched on there is the confidence. I think that we are in big trouble here. Big trouble. I think since the restart, I honestly think we've been rotting. I do. And next season, we have to come out the gates firing. And I'm not sure how we're going to see that unless we gut the squad.
I think there'll be no choice in that. I think players will leave. The squad will almost kind of take itself apart. I think we'll see certainly Aarons will go. I think Buendia, maybe his head's already gone. But like you, I'm amazed at post-restart, the lack of fight, the lack of kind of battling spirit, players almost playing as if they knew they weren't going to be there next season. And that, for a team in that position, was really strange to see. I can't explain why Norwich came back with all to play for still in some very attractive home fixtures, especially to look forward to in theory, came back and was so not up for the fight. Whether that was because players have had their heads turned by moves elsewhere, but perhaps, Buendia, even Todd Cantwell, that when he was sat on the pitch after the game and stuff. So you hope that doesn't come into players' thoughts. But this lack of fight since the restart, for me, it's baffling. I've never seen a team in the position Norwich were in, which was not, they weren't down 9 games ago, come out and play as if they were. So it's been very surprising, very saddening to see, obviously, all that team spirit of last year kind of ebb away and end with that run of defeats, which, it's really going down with a whimper and no fight at all.
Dan, I think you're right there. And Sam says that was the epitome of a team who could not care less about their self-worth. A massive rebuild is needed of this club. Sam, I do agree with you. I think that there's a lot of question marks over the majority of those players. Of course, the jury's out on Farke again now as well. He absolutely is. He absolutely deserves to take some criticism. Of course, Stuart Webber came out in the press and backed him, and I think it was fair. And I do think that he deserves time. And likewise, I massively believe in Pukki as well. I genuinely feel that the amount of support that he's had from the midfield department has been shocking. Since the restart. And regardless of confidence, you need to, as a striker, you need to be fed the score. A lot of people criticised Cameron Jerome back in the day because he wasn't hitting the target enough and stuff like that, but at least he was being given opportunities to try and hit the target, and Teemu Pukki hasn't had it. Now, this is the danger for me, Dan. Nick Brooker, give Farke till Christmas. Very, very interesting. And Dan, how thinking about next season now, how long do you give it if it is going badly?
We've been there before, haven't we, with managers when Norwich have come down? How long do you give, Alex Neely, even going back, Nigel Worthington?
Yeah.
I think Farke has done enough to warrant a second crack at it. I think you look at the goodwill, he built up last season, the way they got promoted as well. Let's not forget, last year was brilliant. The football was fantastic. And there's no reason why he can't do that again. A lot depends on the recruitment, I think. I think this season's recruitment was poor. You know, you look at the loan signings who came in before the season, Ralph Fearman, Patrick Roberts, neither really kicked a ball for Norwich.
100%.
The winter signings, Duda and Rupp. Obviously, Rupp's here next season. Duda's already gone back to Berlin. I think a lot depends on what Farke's given in terms of the tools that Stuart Webber gives him.
Well, we've already spent more there, haven't we, Dan? We've already spent more in this window than we have going to the Premier League, which is absolutely unbelievable. Dan, your take on Ben Godfrey's performance today. Jack is commenting from Mallorca, and he says, "Afternoon team thought Godfrey was far better today." What was your take, Ben?
I thought he was okay today as well. I mean, I think Ben Godfrey, for me, his future lies in midfield. I don't see him as a centre half going into his mid-20s. So I think playing him there, I don't think it's his best position. I can see why he's there, because he's obviously a wonderful footballer who can play different positions. But I think whether at Norwich or more likely elsewhere, I think Ben Godfrey will become a really top-level defensive midfield player. And I thought today he was okay.
It's really interesting to get that take from you, Dan, because it's something that we've been debating on the channel all season long, actually, is Ben Godfrey in his right place? A lot of people have said that. And I guess it depends if he stays at Norwich. I think if he stays at Norwich, of course, we'll see him keep his place at centre-back. I highly doubt that Daniel Farke will move him on to midfield, but perhaps at another club, you'll see him change. Dan, Harry Copeman on YouTube, thank you for all your comments, by the way, guys. Really appreciate it as always. He says, get Jordan Rhodes back. Would you get Jordan Rhodes back in the Championship, Dan?
You know what? Next season, that's not a bad shout at all. We know he loves the club. He was a massive figure in promotion. Also, I think the way he was with the group as well. Okay, he didn't start that many games, but I think the way he fitted into Farke's group and the kind of team spirit was wonderful. Hasn't played much this season for Sheffield Wednesday at all. So will he be available? I'm pretty sure they'd let him go. Would there be a fee that Norwich could afford? I'm sure they could. Is he good enough? 2 years on, I'm not sure, but I think certainly what he brought to Norwich in that season, just being around the place was massive. And they've missed that. Would he have been a player that could have used this season? Quite possibly. But I think he'll be available. And if Norwich want him, then, go for him. But they do say, don't they, never go back.
They do, and this is the thing, right, Dan, is I can't see Stuart Webber and Daniel Farke, for that matter, kind of breaking our transfer policy. And not Jordan Rhodes, but see, for me, I am gagging for more experience. I was wanting it in the Premier League. I'm a bit old-fashioned. Call me old-fashioned, but I just think a Gary O'Neill type player, someone that's kind of been there, that's done that, that's survived, that's been promoted. Personally, if I'm in the recruitment department, which thankfully I'm not, I would be going for experience this season for sure. Dan, back to the game today. Kevin De Bruyne, I mean, absolutely unbelievable, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, literally world class. I think he's now broken the assist record for the Premier League. Goals today. This is a guy who's got everything. And you look at him on the City side, you're just one of a galaxy of stars. And the team Norwich had, the imbalance is massive. And yeah, a 5-goal gulf isn't really unexpected. But you kind of feel that Norwich kind of show these teams and these players a bit too much respect sometimes. Yeah. But I thought De Bruyne was wonderful. He's had a great season. We know this week, Jordan Henderson got the Football Writers Award. I think De Bruyne certainly had a good claim for it as well.
Absolutely, Dan, 100%. Man City today were just like a tidal wave, weren't they? Just coming after us again and again and again. And I was just screaming at the TV in the second half, like, why are we sitting off? We were showing them far too much respect. And, that famous victory, which thank God we had, because the rest of the season has been absolutely dreadful at Carrow Road, that famous 3-2. It just seems like that day we fought. We were putting our bodies, our blood, our lives on the line for the football club. And today we sat back. We paid them far too much respect, didn't we, Dan?
Well, you know what? Today I watched the game and I thought in the first half, how on earth did Norwich beat this team back in September? Because today Norwich didn't lay a glove on them. Okay, they made 1 or 2 chances, but once that first goal went in, you just felt it was going to be 2, 3 more, and it was. And it just September seems like a lifetime ago, not just because of the way the whole world's changed, but in football terms. The Norwich on that day in September, that sunny Sunday afternoon, compared to today, night and day, wasn't it?
Absolutely. John Boy on YouTube says, entirely with you there, Chris. We have a team of highly talented kids, no experience, no toughness mentally or physically. We don't need to go the route of Stoke in the Prem, but bring in one leader. Dan, we've lacked in the leadership department this season as well, haven't we?
Yes. You look at the squad, and who in that squad would you say is a leader? Obviously, Tim Krul. I think Tete as well is a leader. But obviously, he can't play every week because of his injury problems. So they do lack leaders. You think of the team that came up under Worthington 2003, 2004. That team was full of them. Malky Mackay, Craig Fleming, Adam Drury, Gary Holt,
Robert
Green, Ewan Roberts.
Yeah.
There were leaders everywhere. Even teams who've come up since then, the Paul Lambert team. There were leaders. There were players through the divisions. Michael Nelson. That kind of player. This current squad, a lot of very nice, pretty footballers, but there aren't many you'd say who you'd kind of go to war with. And they have missed that this season. Norwich have been very nice, and nice is good, but nice is easily bullied, and nice doesn't tend to win many games in the Premier League. So look, it's been done a different way this season. It was very brave to try it.
Brave or naive, Dan? Brave or naive?
Bit of both. Naive in that it was certainly, obviously, Webber and Farke's first crack at the Premier League. But brave as well, because they obviously felt they could do this. And both Webber and Farke, they are proper football people, and they know the game, and they obviously felt this could work. But obviously it hasn't. But you can't knock a trier, and they've tried to do it a different way. But sadly, they've just fallen way short.
And arguably, and I don't know what you made of Stuart Webber's interview, Dan, coming out, taking responsibility. I'm so pleased that he did, because obviously it goes without saying that he deserves criticism for the recruitment this season. It hasn't been good enough, 100%. And I'm sure we'll come back to the Man City game, so don't you worry, folks. But I want to bring this up here. Banteray, cracking YouTube profile picture there, by the way. Ida Anel, and here we go. First pronunciation, Placheta. I've got it wrong there. Fastest team in the league. Dan, how excited are you to see this pace that we seem to be buying in, pace and strength? Daniel Farke came out in the press this week and said that. Are you excited for next season, or are you a bit like, oh God, I'm not sure if we're going to get the balance right?
First things, I believe it's Przemysław Płacheta. I'm told that by my Polish friends. Przemysław Płacheta.
Dan,
but anyway, next season, yeah, I mean, that looks a very exciting attacking line, doesn't it? But it's trying to get it to work.
Yeah.
I hope it can work. I hope it does work. I'm looking forward to seeing Adam Ida. I think we've seen in flashes this season, in the FA Cup especially, what a very special talent he is. I'm surprised he wasn't given more games, more time as the season kind of ran away from Norwich, 1 or 2 starts maybe. But I guess you don't want to bruise a young player with, playing in too many heavy defeats. But I think next season's mix going forward, Płacheta, Ida, yeah, I mean, there's promise there. But, it's one thing having those players, another to turn them into a team and get them to gel on a regular basis. And, how is Płacheta going to get on, against the very physical teams you meet in the Championship? And also the number of games. He's come from the Ekstraklasa in the Polish League, where you don't play Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday like we do in the Championship. So that takes some learning as well. But I think, we can't really judge him till we see much of him in a Norwich shirt. But I think on paper, that looks like a very exciting attacking team next season for Norwich, in theory.
Dan, I agree. I think there is an element of optimism. For me, with a wind of caution. I kind of fell into the mental trap of thinking that we were going to pull off some sort of magic miracle this season, and then I've grown sick and tired of the riddles and the press conferences. And for me now, we have to see results, and we have to see them immediately go into the championship without a shadow of a doubt. I think you're right. I think seeing these young players being brought in is exciting, but as we've already highlighted, we do lack leaders, vocal leaders particularly. I heard a lot of Tim Krul today, and Dan, we've got to discuss Tim Krul, by the way. Of course, in the week announced as Player of the Season, it could have been double figures. We could have easily beaten Ipswich's record loss today if it wasn't for Tim Krul.
Yeah, and I think, maybe not since Grant Holt has there been a more obvious winner of the Player of the Year award at Norwich. Brilliant. I mean, today, some terrific saves, but it's been like that all season. And okay, there have been some mistakes as well, but when you have to face that many shots, of course, one or two are going to slip through. Brilliant. And he is a leader. I think we heard last season when he was having a difficult spell, Webber and Farke came out and said how important he was with the group. You can see that he's a loud voice. He's a big voice. He's played at World Cups. He's been international. He's played in the Premier League for years for Newcastle. You've got to respect him, and he's been really important. And it could have been not just today, but lots of games this season, really embarrassing on occasions when he was at times a one-man wall when Norwich did fold. Look, we knew there'd be some heavy defeats this season, no doubt, but I think the manner of some of them when the team have almost down tools, it's been worrying. And Tim Krul's been there as a constant, really, and a kind of one-man shining light to make sure Norwich weren't kind of breaking those records set by our neighbours down the road.
I agree, and there's only been one stinker from Tim Krul this season, which seems harsh that I'm bringing it up, of course, away at Arsenal. But apart from that, just monumental time after time. And I even think back to games earlier on in the season. I always go back to this game, West Ham, for quite a few different reasons. West Ham away. We were bullied off the ball. We were beaten up. And I remember that day, Christoph Zimmermann came back from injury and got absolutely crunched. And Tim Krul that day stopped that being 6 or 7-0 comfortably. I think I'm so excited to see Tim Krul, hopefully, fingers crossed. But this is the problem, Dan, is that I think, and there's this whole Player of the Season curse, isn't there? We've seen it time after time that the players have won Player of the Season and they've gone. The list is endless. And do you think he'll stay at Norwich this season?
I think he will. I think he's at the age now where he's obviously a family man. His family is settled here. He knows at Norwich his first choice. He wouldn't be a guaranteed first choice at any other team in the Premier League, maybe. As good as he is, other teams have got their goalkeepers. So I think Krul will stay. We know he's a very important figure. And I think next season, again, I think he could be next season's team captain. I think because what he brings to the whole group, really. So I've no doubt he'll stay whatsoever.
Good man, I like that, Dan, and I agree. And having spoken with Tim on loads of occasions this season, I can't begin to preach how much of a great guy he is. And I know people say, well, we've fed up of good guys, but it's important to have people at the club that care so much about the badge. Like, I cannot even begin to tell you how much Tim Krul cares. And we need more people like that. So I'm excited to see, hopefully, fingers crossed, Tim Krul in between the sticks next season. Now, let's go back down to the depths again, because we want to try and stay level here at TNC. Will Granty7 on YouTube, great profile picture of the mighty Wezzy, of course. He says, 10 losses in a row doesn't represent how marvellous our football club is. The most kind-hearted fans. I'm not too bothered about the result today. We lost the season in these last 9 games. Dan, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think, we came back from the restart. And like I said earlier, there were games there that were winnable, but games there we didn't turn up for. You look at the Everton home game when I thought Norwich were appalling against an Everton team who got beaten by Bournemouth today at home. Everton, been on the beach since February. And I just felt Norwich that day were just so not up for the fight in a game they should have won. We know obviously the West Ham game here when they were rolled over by Mikel Antonio. There've been too many games like that, games which on paper against direct rivals in that relegation zone.
Yeah.
They've not turned up. They've folded, and they've been so weak in games where they had to be strong. And it's hard to remember many teams in the Premier League. You think of the really bad teams, Swindon, that Derby team with Paul Jewell, one or two of Sunderland's teams. They all had some fight about them, And Norwich, in a lot of games they've played this season, didn't have that. And that, for me, is perhaps the biggest surprise from all this, is that having done so well to get in the Premier League under Daniel Farke, they appeared to show so little fight to try and stay there.
And Dan, this is what worries me and makes me sick and leaves such a sour taste in the mouth, because, you said it earlier, and Stuart Webber, and I challenge everyone that's watching this now, go and watch the Stuart Webber podcast that we did before this season, because it's really interesting to hear what he has to say. He says, don't worry, because I know for sure that we'll fight. I know that. I know we'll give it a good go. But that's wrong. That's point blank wrong, because since the restart, we haven't fought. We've rolled over. We've given up. There's been no fight. There's been no spirit. And although I've tried to be optimistic and positive, I can't defend them, Dan. I can't defend Daniel Farke since the restart. I can't defend any of the actions of the players. The defence has been all over the shop. Even Max and Jamal, who I'm their biggest fans, but they've not been good enough as well. Of course, they'll know that, but that's the thing that really pisses me off, Dan, is the lack of fight. That's you can't comprehend that as a fan, can you?
No, I think the first thing you want to see from your team is, okay, you're not as good as the teams you're facing, maybe. I think Farke said they've been every game underdog this season, which I think maybe sends out the wrong message anyway. But you want to see your team battle. You want to see your team at least compete. And I think Norwich's season, as soon as that first goal's gone in, you've just known that they're not going to come back. Have they taken any points from losing positions this season? Or no wins, certainly,
Nope.
From losing positions. And that's a concern. I just wonder if the whole mindset this season was every game's like a cup game. We're the underdogs. If we lose, it was meant to be. I just wonder if that mindset from day one of us being lucky to be there, or maybe, being the rank outsiders, whether that filtered down and the players themselves got to thinking that, well, we're here because, we're ahead of schedule. We weren't planned to come up last season, but here we are. We'll just kind of see how it goes. And, if we lose, we lose. And that might explain the fact that when they have gone a goal down, they haven't been able to fight their way back, because they've kind of known in their heads that they're second best. And I just find it really odd that the fans expect their team to, when they pull on that yellow shirt, to battle, to fight, to chase every ball, to win every tackle. Yeah. Okay, if they come up short, then fair enough. But when you come up short, not having really laid a glove on teams in far too many games, that's when it's time to worry.
You're totally right, Dan. Bang on the money as always, which is exactly why I wanted you to come on. And you know what? That's the thing that I've struggled with as well. Leadership 101. And I think that mentality has poisoned us, Dan. I think that whole mentality of those catchphrases we've heard over and over this season, the riddles post and pre-match about miracles and underdogs and all this. Fuck off! I don't want to hear it anymore. We're Norwich, and there's at least 50,000 Norwich fans worldwide that care so much about this football club, and I just think it's almost a bit patronising. And you wouldn't hear any of those other managers, Dean Smith. You wouldn't hear him talking about that. You wouldn't hear Chris Wilder. The messaging for me has been wrong.
I was about to say Chris Wilder. There's a guy who looks like he would punch a manager just to get a draw. His team, okay, they're not a long ball team. They play good football, but they're battlers as well. In no game this season could you accuse Sheffield United of not fighting, of not looking like they were trying to do something and not trying to impose themselves on the opposition. Norwich have been too passive in every single way this season. You can go back to Anfield and the first game of the season. Okay, you're playing the European champions, but you go 3 down in the blink of an eye. And that was where the alarm bells, I think, began to ring, where we realised that this nice football, it was not going to carry too much weight at this level. And I think from day one, that's been the issue. Norwich haven't been trying to impose themselves on anybody in this division.
Yes, you're so right, because when we've seen it against Manchester City, against Newcastle, against Chelsea earlier on the season, against Arsenal at home. When we picked the ball up and we've driven today against Manchester City, they can't handle an El Hernandez. We needed to be feeding him. The whole tactics and lineup and strategy for me has been wrong, because we've sat back and we've tried to be organised with the quality that we've got, which is clearly not good enough. And for me, Dan, you're right. And the thing that Daniel Farke said when he rolled up into the door at Carrow Road, apart from saying his famous quote, the doves are crying, the sun is shining, I'm feeling really, really great. Mm-hmm. He said that I play proactive attacking football. I want to bring the ball to the opposition. I want to try and impose myself and my players and my team on the opposition. We have not seen that, have we?
No, and last season you did. You saw Norwich in lots of games when they came up say, look, we're Norwich City, this is how we play.
Yeah.
Try and live with us. And aside from the games you've mentioned there, obviously the Newcastle home game, Man City at home for spells, we haven't seen that at all. When Norwich have had style and a willingness to be on the front foot and say, you try and live with us. Instead, they've been passive. They've let the opposition stamp their style on the game. And too often that leads to the first goal. And then, as we know, Norwich don't come back from the first goal. So from day one this season, I wonder if Farke was, if that first game at Liverpool made him doubt himself. It's like, wow, this is the level we're at now. And, this is going to be difficult. You think back to Alex Neil, who was similar, I thought, that defeat at Newcastle, the 6-2, when he seemed to just lose faith in what he was doing. Yeah, and I wonder if that's happened again with Farke on occasion this season, when what's got you up has got you up for a reason, and that method can still work as long as you try to to enforce that on the other team. And I think Farke certainly, like Alex Neil did, maybe has just lost a bit of belief in himself at times.
I absolutely agree, and again, Dan, another thing that's really frustrated me is we talk about the quality in the Premier League, and this has been an excuse this season, and I've said it just then, but to contradict myself, and please disagree with me in the comments if you genuinely disagree with this. How many teams have we come up against this season where we've said to ourselves, cool, blimey, these are looking a bit shaky. Cool, blimey, we could do some damage here. Cool, blimey, we're only a goal away here. How many times have we seen that? I mean, I think back to Crystal Palace away, losing marginally 1-0. I think back, scarily, Liverpool at home, Dan, we had the chance to beat the champions, the Premier League champions. They were there for the taking. I'm adamant of that. With three chances against them at home, and we didn't take them. And blame Pookie or blame what you like. But that's been the frustrating thing for me is, yes, we blamed quality, but yet the frustrating thing for me is that I genuinely believe that our young, inexperienced squad could do it, because we have had opportunities. And this Premier League season for me has been one of the worst Premier League seasons in history. And I'm not just saying that because Norwich are going down. I don't think the quality has been exceptional, Dan.
No, I think certainly the top two, Liverpool and City, are miles ahead of the rest.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I speak as Wolves are my team, really. And we're up there, seventh place? We're good. But the teams below Wolves, you can really, any team from 8th downwards, there's not much between them.
Yeah.
And Norwich, that's why I thought this season they'd be okay. I thought Norwich would be better than at least 3 other teams.
Yeah, definitely.
But when they've not been able to even get to that kind of standard, you look at some of the teams down there, the Burnleys and the Brightons. Norwich should be able to compete with teams like that.
Definitely. That's been the killer thing for me, is that, and I guess you can blame injuries. I guess you can, but to me, that just it smells a bit. I think that the quality kind of has been there to at least put up a fight. Dan, let's look forwards now to the transfer window. Arguably the most crucial transfer window in the history of this football club, apart from when we went down to League One. Which players do you think might leave, and why?
I think financial reasons. I think Buendia will go for good money. I think Aarons will go for good money. I think Cantwell will go for good money.
Wow.
So you look at Norwich getting in, tens of millions of pounds, which hopefully will be, given to Webber to be able to work with. He won't get, obviously, the full amount. Of course he won't.
Yeah.
But he'll get enough, I think, to be able to compete in the Championship transfer market, bring in some decent players. And And yeah, the players who will move on, Jamal Lewis is one who might go as well. But the players who will move on, I think, have given Norwich good service. Obviously, 3 have come through the youth system here. Buendia was a bargain from Spain. They'll make a massive profit on him. And this season, Buendia had a funny season. In patches looked magnificent, but equally in some games didn't look interested. So, yeah, I think he won't want to play another second-tier season. I think Cantwell's star has risen to a degree now where he looks like a Premier League player and probably will move on. And the 2 fullbacks we've known for years now are next-level players. They are top quality, and they'll go for top dollar as well.
Of course, there's got to be suitors, though, Dan, isn't there? And I think a lot of the comments I can see that are coming through now, by the way, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. There's a lot of people are questioning the quality, actually. A lot of people are saying, hang on a minute, why would you? Godfrey, of course, scoring that own goal. There was people saying, "Cool, blimey, how are we going to sell these for millions and millions of pounds?" There's a lot of talk about these players going for that sort of money, but are they worth that much, Dan?
Well, I just wonder, this whole COVID thing, whether that will deflate the market somewhat, and they won't get the fees they would have got maybe 6 months ago. So we'll see. I'm trying to think, if you look at the money they got for Maddison, I think that's probably a benchmark for Cantwell.
Yeah, agreed.
I think in the current market, Aaron's is worth a lot of money. Godfrey, maybe his star has dimmed a little bit in the last 3 to 4 months. But I think, they'll still get good money, but I wonder whether they'll get the same kind of fees they would have got, in the old world, as it were.
And it's agents as well, Dan. I mean, like, everyone's talking about the players' quality, their performances on the pitch, but there's not been a lot of talk about agents. Now, most people know by now that Ben Godfrey's agent is Rio Ferdinand, which I think will be a very real interesting area of discussion. Is, will the agents push through moves? Ben Godfrey being managed by Rio, received quite a lot of criticism on social media for his commentary over Ben, sticking up for him and stuff. And as you would. I didn't realise until today that Todd Cantwell this season had switched to the same agency that are looking after Sancho. I didn't know that. Did you, Dan?
I didn't know that, no.
Yeah, so Jane Sancho is managed by one agency who also now look after Todd Cantwell, which might explain the fantastic marketing deals that he's had this season. But that worries me, Dan, is not the marketing deals, but the fact that he's now being looked after by clearly a company that know how to manage a player to the top. And for me, I really want Todd to stay. I do. I'm a massive fan. I don't believe in this nonsense about the criticism he's had has been shocking for me, actually, really disrespectful considering the amount of goals that he's contributed in the circumstances this season. But Dan, what have you made of that, of the criticism that Todd's received?
I think in a relegation, people look for targets to lash out at, and Cantwell's a fairly easy target. Obviously, the way he plays, the way he looks on the field, he's an easy target for people to say, "Who's this fancy Dan?" And I don't think the sitting down on the pitch did him any favours. Equally, I don't think Stuart Webber's comments did him any favours either.
Great.
So, yeah, you don't like to hear of players getting abuse. I thought the comments made to Durmich on Instagram last week were abhorrent. You don't want to hear that towards any team's players, let alone players at Norwich. So, yeah, relegation needs scapegoats. It needs people for fans to lash out at. And I think Cantwell and Durmich certainly have been 2 of the kind of players who've been on the end of that from some, but obviously by no means all, Norwich fans this season.
Again, I need to make it clear. We said this last week, but I need to say it again. Dan's called it early there. Think of whatever you want to say about Durmich's performances on the pitch. You're entitled to say it, but to send those sorts of disgusting messages to one of our players is absolutely atrocious. So don't do it. It's not good enough. Here's a good comment. Alistair Enefa on YouTube says, Sam Byram is going to tear up the Championship this season. If Max leaves, Dan, there's a great replacement there, isn't there?
Yes, and he played well obviously before injury this season too, didn't he, Sam Byram? A player who kind of came in under the radar. We spoke about the poor recruitment. I think he's probably one of the few kind of shining lights that vindicates Stuart Webber, because excellent player, and obviously moved to West Ham for big money, didn't he, from Leeds? And so for Norwich was a bit of a bargain, really. I think Byram could be a good player in the second tier next season. He's been there before. He's played in that league many times. So yeah, I think he could welcome good next season.
There's been a comment on YouTube, and I've seen you, Shaney. You've posted it 3 or 4 times now, so let's make sure we read it out for you. 3 at the back next season, Chris. Suits our style if we get the right characters in. Dan, what's your take on that first?
Didn't work in Farke's first season, did it? When he tried it. It depends on personnel, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It depends on the players Norwich have in the team to play that way. It can work. Obviously, my team, Wolves, we play with 3 at the back, and we did so in the Championship 2-3 years ago. It works really well, but you've got to have the right players. You need the right centre-backs. You need the right wing-backs as well. Could Byron play in that system? Yeah, he could. But you look at the 3 in the middle, who's going to be there come September's restart? So don't know, but it can work in that division. But for Norwich, hasn't really worked for Farke so far.
This is the thing, Dan, that massively worries me, is just the amount of movement that we could potentially endure this transfer window is going to be monumental. Not just the players that clearly Stuart Webber and Daniel Farke believe that they need to add in, but the amount of players that they need to ship out as well. It's very clear. And also, as there always is when you get relegated from the Premier League, there's always going to be a player that we get rid of where you go, cool, blimey, didn't expect that. Or, wow, that's a surprise. So for me, I that's my biggest worry, Dan, is not hitting the ground running and not flying out the gates because of the movement in the transfer market.
And it's also, don't forget, a very short pre-season now. So there's not much time for players to come in and to settle and to gel. So whether that will actually mean some players stay because there's just not time to get moves sorted out, who knows? But I think there will be a lot of flux in that Norwich squad in the next 6 to 8 weeks. We've got no idea what 11 will start that first game of next season.
Absolutely no idea. It's going to be a really interesting time. Paul Leach, watching from Shanghai. Love your content and still believe we have what it takes next season. Paul, thank you so much for watching all the way over in Shanghai. We've had viewers in Russia, Saudi Arabia, and now China. I didn't think we'd make that market this season, but there you go. Thank you so much for watching, Paul. I really appreciate it. Dan, let's talk about the players that we've brought in now. Let's talk about Jacob Sorensen first. Any initial thoughts and opinions and feelings on him at all?
It's always hard to know how a player coming from outside the English game will settle. Norwich have had relatively good success rates with overseas acquisitions, certainly before this season under Stuart Webber. We'll see. I mean, a player who comes in, like many of the players Norwich signed in the Championship before that promotion season, with no real expectations. We don't know how good he's going to be. It's one of the signings which is almost, a leap of faith. We kind of put our faith in Stuart Webber, and we'll see how this one turns out. But, certainly I think Webber has tarnished his own copybook this season, but we shouldn't forget the players he recruited the previous couple of seasons when, he pulled 1 or 2 real rabbits out of the hat, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Pukki. I remember signing Timu Pukki thinking, my God, who is this geezer that we brought in here? This seems like, I don't know where we're going. And so a lot of people will, of course, as you've said there, Dan, and I agree. I think that the recruitment and Stuart Webber's reputation has deservedly been tarnished. But at the same time, he's absolutely more than capable of pulling out an Emi Buendia, a Timu Pukki, just like that. And hopefully, fingers crossed, the 2 new signings that we've brought in already will do very well indeed. A comment that I've seen here, I don't normally like to do this, but I feel it's appropriate today because I was really disappointed in him. What players let me down? Well, I don't want to pick on him too much, but for me, Kenny McLean today, I've been his biggest fan in the last few games. I've stood up for him, but Dan, today, Kenny, did he play well? What did you think of Kenny's performance?
I thought the whole midfield today was just an overrun. I mean, Rupp we barely saw. McLean as well. Very, very minimal impact on the game. But, you're playing against world-class players. in a team which is, bereft of all confidence. So I wouldn't be too harsh on the midfield today, because obviously it was always a game that we're going to lose. But I think next season McLean could be a player again who'll, in that division, come into his own. And maybe Lucas Rupp as well will be the player we've not seen so far, maybe in the Championship.
Lucas Rupp, of course, sponsored by Talk Norwich City. I think the jury's out on so many players, Dana. I can't defend Lucas Rupp at all. I have been really disappointed with what I've seen today. I know what you're saying, Dan, that the quality is obviously vast, and we're playing against a world-class team that could take a team like Madrid or Barcelona or Bayern Munich to the sword. But for me today, just the footballing basics of physicality, of passing, of spatial awareness, just Lucas Rupp for me today just didn't have a good game at all. And I'm not sure if he can do it in the Championship. I'm sorry, I'm not, but I'm confident that Kenny McLean can do it in the Championship. I think that Kenny's been a fantastic signing. You consider the fact that we only spent £200,000 on him, and I think that he'll take to the Championship like a duck to water next season. Dan, let's talk about now Man City's revenge, because today for me that was clearly what they wanted, wasn't it? And they got it.
It was revenge, and also I think to give David Silva a winning and spectacular send-off as well. He was the captain today for them. Guardiola is only human. That defeat here will have really hurt him in September. It was a major dent in their ambitions to win the title, to defend their title. And he'll feel he owed Norwich one today. And certainly I think to come out of the blocks the way they did, the goal disallowed early on for Onel Hernandez. But as soon as they got that first goal, you just knew the way this game was going to go. And there was no danger today of Guardiola losing to Farke for a second time.
No way. I'm a bit frustrated actually, because I had a bet on 6-0 Man City, which marginally missed out on indeed. There's been a lot of people sticking up for Lucas Rupp, which is good. We like to have a fair debate. That's interesting. Here's an example. I think Lucas Rupp will be good in Championship, and then here's another example. Rupp can't pass the ball 10 yards. Here we go. Rupp was good this game. I think he'll be quality next season.
You know what? Lucas Rupp, before injury in Germany, was an excellent player for Hoffenheim. I said to you off air that I think had Norwich signed the 2017 Lucas Rupp, the 2018 Andre Duda, and the 2014 Josip Durmic, you'd have three really good players on your hands there. But, obviously injuries and in Duda's case, a loss of form. And they're very different players at the moment. I think Rupp certainly with games will come good. He's barely played for the last couple of years in his defence. And, I admit he's been poor for Norwich so far, but there's a player in there. And in the Bundesliga, when he was fully fit, he was a pretty good midfielder. And I can see him certainly with games under his belt, with that match sharpness back, which he's missed for a couple of years. I think he might do a job.
Yeah, I love your optimism there, Dan. I do, and your references to the player years there. It's kind of like I agree with you, but I also think if my auntie had balls, she'd be my uncle. I think I'm fed up of signing players that are needing to prove a point and needing to make a name for themselves, or players that are experienced that need a leg up. Why aren't we able to sign players in their infancy? And hey, maybe we've done that already in the transfer market. Maybe the players that we bought in for the right money, maybe we're going to change our ways. But for me, I'm fed up of I'm fed up with that, Dan. I want to see us sign someone that's a real good marquee signing. Like, again, call me out of touch or old-fashioned, but I want to see experience. I want to see a player that's already made it. I want to see a player that was challenging for promotion in the Championship this season, by the way. I'm sure there'll be clubs that, particularly clubs in the playoffs, that we could potentially pick from, hopefully, fingers crossed. I know it will be tough to woo them into that, but for me, I want to see some quality signed, and I think we need to be spending a lot more than couple of $100,000 on a player. What do you think, Dan?
I think so, yeah. And let's not forget how hard that division is. I worked on the Quest show in midweek, the Championship, and you can see that division again next year will be super tight. Nothing in that league is a given. The fact we had promotion and relegation both down to the final night on Wednesday, says that this is going to be no cakewalk for Norwich. But yeah, that they do need experience. They need players, I think, who know that league almost more than they had no players who knew the Premier League. I think players need to be in that squad who'll be able to hit the ground running, as you said. Won't be surprised by the physicality or the number of games in the Championship. So yeah, I mean, maybe they can cherry pick, the unlucky teams this season and bring one or two players in. I think maybe a centre half from the Championship would be a very, very good acquisition, just to give them some, a platform again defensively, because we know under Farke, even last season, defence was an issue, and they got away with it last year. This year, obviously, they didn't. So I think go and find a good Championship centre half would be, for me, one of the first things Farke and Stuart Webber should do.
Totally agreed.
In what's left of the summer.
Totally agreed. And for me, we need to be signing brick shithouses. I think we've seen teams like Sheffield United. The size and the muscular difference has just been ridiculous. I think Norwich just seem weak. I know that seems like a cheap comment, but I feel like the only player that has that physicality is the likes of El Hernandez and Christoph Zimmerman. Apart from that, I can't really name a player that's strong and holds their own. Potentially Grant Hanley, of course, but he's not featured, and of course is picking up injuries. There's a lot of shouts in here for potential transfers, and I will get your comments out there for sure. Wow, here we go. I hope this is sarcastic. How many beers have you had, Neil? Marley Watkins, anyone? No. Dan, I can't believe the money we got for him. Unbelievable transfer.
That was daylight robbery. What's he done since leaving, by the way?
Mate, I can't, but, fair play for getting that money for him. We have absolutely mugged them off. I cannot believe it. Marley Watkins, oh, God, where do I begin?
I'll tell you what, though, there's one here from Sam M22, Adam Armstrong at Blackburn Rovers. Now, he's a player Norwich could get because Blackburn, I think, have to sell because of their financial situation. So I think he got 16 goals this season and maybe 4 or 5 assists as well. He's not unlike Pukki in the way he plays. Same kind of build, scores the same kind of goals, much younger than Teemu Pukki, has done good things in the lower divisions with the likes of Coventry, obviously came through at Newcastle, and he'd be available. So I think Armstrong would be a pretty good shout for me.
Here we go, another one. Marcus on YouTube says Van der Horn from Swansea might be a good one. There's also a shout earlier on, Ryan Brewster from Liverpool. And see, that's the sort of quality that I really want to. Here you go, Marcus again, Bamba from Cardiff. I'm not sure these players are going to fit into our system. And this is the thing that worries me, Dan, is I feel like we've been found out. And I feel like we've been found out on the pitch. And I'm also really worried now that we've been found out in the transfer market. You know the German game better than anyone else I know. Do you think now there's an element of German clubs, they're going to be looking at us and they're going to be thinking, okay, we know the deal here. You're going to try and get one on the cheap and you're going to try and sell it for more money. So it's going to be harder to get that talent from Germany. Is it, Dan?
It is, and that's why they may look towards the UK market. Those two players you mentioned there, I think Mike van der Horn and Sol Bamba. I think Bamba's probably the wrong side of 30 to be a real signing for Norwich, but they're both leaders. They're both big figures, and that's what Norwich miss. As for the German question, we know Webber and Farke know that market inside out. Has it been exhausted? Of course not. There's still plenty of players out there Norwich could sign, and it's still an attractive proposition to come to Norwich, even for the teams lower in the Bundesliga. But we'll have to see. The players they sign, no one saw Onel Hernandez coming, or no one saw Marco Stieferman. They were almost done kind of without anyone knowing. So if they do sign players, it won't be players we've necessarily heard of or thought of. So again, kind of put your faith in them to try and do it again. But to do it once was amazing. To do it again would be almost witchcraft, wouldn't it?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, let's use the word witchcraft, not miracles, because I'm fed up of that. I think this is an absolutely brilliant comment from you here. Michael Garwood on YouTube says, this season has exposed us in many ways. Inexperienced players at PL level who couldn't handle the pressure, physical and mental, learning curve for Farke and Webber, plus proof of how vital fans are inside Carrow Road. Now, Dan, obviously, again, to draw on your links with the German game, and better than anyone else about the importance of fans. this has been brushed aside by Jack a lot, of how it's a nonsense that, you know, the players get energy from the fans. I think for me, the Norwich fans not being at Carrow Road, either supporting them or controversially giving them a bollocking, I think that's had an impact on the players.
I think these last few games, when there's been that real lack of fight, fans in the stadium wouldn't have stood for that. They would have demanded with their voices that the team got stuck in and showed some passion. I think the lack of fans almost gave them a way out, in that there was no one there to kind of challenge them for that lack of passion. Whereas if you've got the fans in there who've paid their money to be there and are going to voice their opinion, there's no hiding place then. So, yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's the same for both teams, but I think for a team in the position Norwich were in, the home fans could have given them an extra edge, and not having them there, I think, hurt Norwich more than maybe most of the teams in the Premier League this season.
100%, and I've said this time after time, sounding like a broken record. I hope to God that no one inside the club ever disrespects the fans again, ever disrespects our atmosphere, our vocality, our support for the team, following them across the country in vast numbers, record season tickets, despite the fact that it's still one of the most expensive season tickets in the Championship. We have seen since this Premier League start how vital we are as fans, and I think that I think we need to remember that, and I hope that the people with inside the club, the top brass, certainly appreciate that more than ever. Another comment that I've kept this on screen because I want to dissect this, Dan, is learning curve for Farke and Webber. Now, do you think that they'll learn, Dan? Because I think that this season, tactically, we've seen that Daniel Farke hasn't learned. Is that fair?
I think I'm surprised by still how late he leaves substitutions, even with the 5 subs being allowed now post the restart. And he's not learned from that. Is that stubborn? Is that the way he is? Yeah. But this has been a learning curve, a tough one. And if he doesn't learn from this experience, then he won't be at the club for much longer when next season starts. As for Webber, obviously his first crack at the Premier League as well. He's tried to do it a different way. It's not worked. He'll learn, I'm sure. But don't forget that Norwich, the hands are tied by the finances. You know, Norwich can't go out there and spend 20 million plus on players. They don't have the owners, the backers to do that. So it was a different way of doing it. And yeah, they could have spent more, but obviously not huge amounts more. But they didn't stretch themselves financially, which I guess in the long term is a good thing. But I just think Webber will have learned that you can't compete in the Premier League without spending money. And if they come up again next season, hopefully that they will, I don't think we'll see the approach taken this season used again.
I hope not. And Dan, I think some serious questions will be asked of Stuart Webber, of Delia, of Michael, and deservedly so, you know, because although I kind of agree with, no, I don't agree with the approach we took this season. I still think there was a hybrid to be struck. I still think we should have pushed the boat out a little bit more. I mean, I know that Aston Villa spent like the second amount in the league, and it's only just paid off, and it would have crushed them if they'd gone down today. But I think, you know, even one £8 million midfielder for me would have been astronomical. It would have made the world of difference to us. So in the Championship, again, I think, you know, a lot of people have said we've not got the money. Well, yeah, I agree with that. But also we have to see a hybrid struck. We have to see money being spent this season, Dan, coming into this, don't we? Because, you know, even only spending 8 million in the Championship is nowhere near the mark. If you want to be promoted from the Championship, surely you've got to spend 10 or 15 million. Am I wrong? Am I barking up the wrong tree here?
No, I think you do. And also you need to use the loan market well. I think you look at West Brom's squad this season, they got the balance pretty much spot on. I know they only kind of squeaked up on the last day, but I thought Bilic, what he did in terms of loan signings and permanent signings was a nice happy medium. You don't want too many loan players. We obviously had that with Norwich going back to the kind of Glenn Roeder days when there were far too many loan players. I know, yeah, far too many loan players. But I think Norwich can and will use that loan market well from the Premier League clubs for next season. And maybe German clubs will want to loan players to Norwich. We'll have to see. But it does need a big rebuild. I think we can all see that. I think this has been such a deflating season. And aside from the fact that players are going to leave, you know, for money anyway, I think the group needs to be freshened up, because you don't want the kind of stink of a losing season to be kind of around the club for too long. So players get tainted by it. You remember Sebastian Bassong always had that whiff of relegation. Was it 5 in his career from the Premier League?
Yeah.
So you don't want that around a club. You want players who are fresh and aren't tainted by kind of past defeats and past relegations. So it will be, I think, a big restructuring coming up in the next few weeks.
Seb Bassong, I didn't expect his name to come up in this conversation. And another thing, Dan, that I want to talk about as well is there's been a lot of talk about how we've invested in our facilities and what a difference that's going to make. And I do think in the medium to long term, it is going to make a difference. But they've used it, I think, as an opportunity to try and settle fans down in the short term. And I'm not sure whether facilities will help us in the short term. I do genuinely think that we've got to spend some money. And here we go. We've got Michael Hoffer. Greetings. Awesome job again. Michael, thank you very much. For anyone that doesn't know, Michael Hoffer, of course, of Hoffer and Webb, as you can see the logo next to Gasway on your right. Anything legal in America, hit up Hoffer and Webb. And there you go. You didn't expect us to be sponsored by someone in America, did you? Here you go, Dan. Adija Afoe. Any interest?
I mean, he was a good player, wasn't he, back in the day? I think at Norwich, his time was the injuries in his first season kind of hit him. But I thought when he came in, there was a good player there. And he's gone on to be a kind of journeyman across Europe. But I still think with Vadis, there was a player in there, and we never quite got to see what it was really about.
No, I agree. Vadis Adija Afoe, indeed. I want to bring up this comment because, of always, we do like to challenge and be honest and open. Leeds tweets backfired. I would like to say congratulations to Leeds. Jack always tries to wind me up and say that I don't like Leeds. I respect Leeds. Fantastic club. It's about time that they've got promoted to the Premier League. The amount of money that they've spent, they had to do it this season. And I'm pleased for the Leeds fans. So a big respect to Leeds for being promoted. Dan, do you think that some of the, obviously, Leeds going up, that's good for Norwich, right? Because I still think that the teams have come down with us, that we can beat those teams, can't we?
Yeah, I think certainly Leeds, congratulations. I think the way Bielsa's gone about things, brilliant. The Premier League needs clubs of Leeds' size and stature. And yeah, it does kind of open the road a bit for Norwich. But look, that division, no matter who's in it, it's difficult. And no team ever walks the Championship. You think that the teams who've kind of got big points tallies, Norwich, Wolves, Reading a few years ago, Newcastle, all those points were won really hard fought. So, no matter who you are in that division, there's no respecting of reputations. Make no mistake, next season, as hard as Norwich will fight, Wycombe will fight hard, Luton will fight hard, Barnsley will fight hard. No matter how big or small the clubs are in that division, they are tough. Saturday, Tuesday, week in, week out, it's a hard slog.
And Dan, the motivation will be there, of course, for the opposition, won't it? Because they'll want to beat someone that's just come down from the Premier League. That will be a motivation. I'm going to put this comment out there. I still love our club. NCFC forever. City till I die, says Matthew Hood on YouTube. Dan, 3 things. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Give me 3 things that you're excited about for next season. Go.
Next season, exciting things. Adam Ida. How's that?
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't expect that. Adam Ida. Well, there you go. What a sign off. And Dan, I just want to say a huge thank you to you for coming on today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much to everyone that's watched. Again, hearing your hundreds and thousands as well at one stage, which is fantastic. Let us know in the comments. Always give us a tweet if you're interested in what we're up to and whether you need to see something different from Talk Norwich City this season. Dan, any parting shots to the Norwich fans?
Yeah, I mean, this season was bruising, but, just think back to how good it was last season, and I'm sure there's every chance of doing it again.
Dan, love that. And as always, I'm going to end the broadcast by singing On the Ball City, because why not?